Okay, so as you probably know, the Board of Supervisors heard a presentation from county staff about what to do with the funding for the PEG stations because of the difficulties with the Kaya station. I think that probably prompted the whole discussion. And during that discussion, Supervisor McCown and I suggested that the board create an ad hoc committee to look into it in more detail. And so we volunteered to serve on that ad hoc committee. And that because the Willits station has been functioning for so many years successfully here in Willits, this was a good place. But we wanted to have a meeting where people in the community could just tell us what they envision for PEG going forward. I mean, as we all know, the funding stream historically for PEG has been a portion of the franchise revenues that the cities and the counties have collected have gone towards the stations. So we've seen more and more of our neighbors leave cable and go to satellite TV because they can get high def in that way. However, if they go to satellite, they can't get the local programming that comes from PEG. Other than if the PEG stations also have video programming on, say, a YouTube channel or something like that. You probably all know that the county uses some of its money right now currently to pay to have a county staff person record the meetings, and they upload it on a county YouTube channel, and that information, I believe, is transmitted to the Willits station, which I believe rebroadcasts it, and transmitted to the Fort Bragg station, which rebroadcasts it. So that's just an overview of how we got to where we are today. And
it may be possible for the county to continue allocating some portion of funding to support local studios, but I don't believe in the future we will see it be the primary source of funding. I think there's a huge value to assuring that local government meetings are recorded and broadcast, and I know that most of the important ones are. There are some gaps.
What I've seen with our local television here is that they bring things to our community, especially to people that are shut in, but to everyone. They bring things that people wouldn't be able to see otherwise. And isn't that the reason why we have this kind of a station? So that's the other reason why it's so important, because this reaches right out over the airwaves and goes into people's homes. Critically important, not something that we should even consider cutting, but adding more money to.
My name is Jim Merrill, and I wanted to say that I was working for the Mendocino County Office of Education when PEG came to the county first. PEG access was very important in the ways that you've already mentioned, right? But always it's been to provide another platform for communication, another voice in this maze of communications in this world. And so to eliminate another pathway for community communications is, I think, not a good idea. The internet and social media does some things, but it doesn't do the same things as local programming, and ties communities together in a very unique way, and in ways that you can't do with social media.
I'd like to just clarify, I don't think it's the interest of the board to cut the service. I think our interest is in trying to find out how can we see it evolve so it continues to exist, because our concern is that as things are moving forward right now, it's sort of withering on the vine. And
no, I hear that, yeah, but I'm also saying that it's important not to consider that other things that are out there are able to replace it. Right. That's the important point that I'm trying to make.
We're also longtime members of the Alliance for Community Media. They are the go-to organization for all technical and legal areas in regard to public access. And the direction they've been working on for over a dozen years is to see a combination of internet and cable with a gradual transition to a greater percentage being internet and a smaller percentage being cable. We should never forget the most important thing that the internet can't replace about public access is its legal status as a designated public forum. Mm-hmm. On the internet, you really don't have any free speech rights. If somebody dislikes what you say on any internet provider, enough pressure could be put on the provider to shut you down. You can't do that with a designated public forum.
I'm part of the Emmendale Corral, and so I end up being on TV at times. And the meetings are really important, and I think it's important for us to remember that I have many friends who are on dial-up internet. They cannot watch something like this. They can't, and they often can't get here. This county is very large, and people, it's just impossible to go to a lot of evening meetings and they can't see these things on the internet. We need to remember that the internet may be important and very big and very in a lot of the world, but in our county, that's not necessarily true.
The people who watch TV in our community are the seniors, and they watch TV a lot. My mom lives in Willits. She lives in Redwood Meadows, right next to the senior center, and it's a senior housing complex. They have cable throughout the complex, so that people don't have to get internet access through satellite dish independently, so they run the cable. So I'm also the director of the Emmendale Corral. We've been on TV a number of times, and I can't tell you how many times I've walked through my mom's complex or the senior center lunch, and people say, "Oh, I saw you on TV." And just the other day, I ran into someone. She said, "I love Channel 3." And she said, "Oh, your group sings upbeat songs, right? I'd like you to sing at the Relay for Life this summer." So then it becomes part of the web of our community activity that just fosters community, because I think a lot of seniors depend on that. And I spent maybe a couple hours on this. I made a little petition, and I kind of misunderstood the question, so I said, I support funding for Channel 3 TV. I got 60 signatures in about 2 hours. These are almost all seniors. I think that a broad variety of programming makes the channel more interesting. And what Andy has done here in Willits in particular is very wonderful, because he's had a lot of variety of programming that makes the channel more interesting, and then more people watch it. So I've had people say, "Well, I only watch the public meetings," and other people say, "Well, I never watch the public meetings. I'll go if there's something interesting on." So they're always checking to see what's on during the day, and things are repeated, of course, but the more variety there is, the more people watch the channel.
We know, well, there were so many subscribers in Ukiah area outside Ukiah city limits that even if the city didn't give 50 cents on the dollar to it, there was still actually more money for the Ukiah station than there was for Willits or for the coast.
Significantly
more. And yet, ironically, today, of the three stations, it's the Ukiah station that is more or less imploded, and the Willits station, which had really the smallest amount of funding, is the one, perhaps because they never really saw a spike in their revenue. They've really, been able to perform amazingly well with a steady but relatively a modest amount of money coming in. And I think it's witnessed here today by the community support and just the fact that its programming must be fairly active to have this much community interest. Anyway, so that's part of our struggle, is we need to come up with something that works in all three areas. And it is obviously working in Willits in spite of the fact that it doesn't have a whole lot of cash coming into it.
I'm one of the board members for Willits TV. The ability to be able to acquire information is not easy, and the technology in this changes day to day. If you're not constantly doing it, you get out of touch, you start to try to edit something, you get stuck, you give up, and you quit. So having Andy there at the station, I think, is a huge advantage and very different than what may be going on in Fort Bragg and Ukiah. We've engaged the community here, and you can see the result of that. I'm only one example of many people in similar circumstances that have valuable stories to tell, who would be lost without the support of Willits TV. Many people post video on YouTube and other platforms, but the content is often unclear, not concise, and basically unwatchable. Willits TV provides guidance in developing your story in a professional manner and gives you a platform to reach your public. During my time at Willits TV, I've seen broad cross-sections of our community come through the doors. A father brought in a teenage boy, and members of our church community have taken advantage of the facility to promote their teaching, and publicize events. One young man created a music video, and many musicians have been able to share their talents. I've seen Andy give a homeless man the opportunity to produce quality video, give him a sense of pride in himself and a place in our community. Everyone has a story that is worth telling. Most will never be told because people don't believe they can tell it well enough to not be laughed at. Willits TV's doors are open to all of those people, saying that their story is important and that they are capable of telling it in a way that will inspire others. We are living in a world where people feel that they have no voice and that they are not part of the community that they live in, that they have no way to become visible and contribute to their world. Willits TV offers them an opportunity to change that paradigm. Video is becoming more and more the preferred mode of communication, yet the facilities to learn how to communicate effectively are extremely limited. It would seem to me that rather than consider reducing or eliminating Willits TV, it would be wiser to enlarge the program to expand its outreach to internet, to give instruction in using smartphones to produce quality video for social media video, to engage the local schools to become involved. We need to be moving forward, not backward.
I'm Judy Burtis, and I'm active in the community. We help produce the Women's History Project in the schools. 1997 till 2005, we produced that in the schools. We took women's history portrayals to the classrooms. And it was interesting because it never got before the public. You know, if only way you could see it was to volunteer and go with us to help the productions in the classrooms. But it was never in public except once or twice at the theater. And so the people of our community would have no idea about the Women's History Project and the portrayals. We portrayed like 268 lives of historic women that made changes in the national culture. That's one small episode of what Willits TV staff members have done to promote my small project. You know, Andy and Al Rosen and the other producers, you see these people here today before you because these people from the television station are at our tiny little events. It's nice to have the television putting out the public meetings, because I certainly watch City Council meeting on Channel 3.
Whatever the stations look like, whether it's Ukiah or Fort Bragg, it needs to be centered around the younger people, students, the schools, get them involved. If they learn how they can bring that into the station and use it for whatever their purpose is, I think that would be an advantage. As you can see in this crowd here, you know, the seniors, the older people are definitely using it and watching meetings and so on and so on. But if you get them more interested, more the knowledge of what is, you know, possible, I think that's going to be a good use of the money.
And I'm here because I want to encourage the county to contribute to the stations in the 3 cities. I'm one who actually watches the program, and the reason I'm here today is because there hasn't been a forum in Ukiah. It's just cut off. The last thing is, most of you probably know that Dan Hamburg has spent half his life trying to improve internet connectivity in this county because of the steep mountains and the extent of it. It's hard to get. So it's unrealistic to say that people, they can just go online and get it on their phone or their tablet or their computer, because they can't. I would like the county to do everything it can to keep the 3 stations going, to interconnect them if that's a possibility, and to keep the county government, to put the county governments back on. And
So can I clarify, I was unaware, and I've never heard anyone except for you say that the county meetings are not, because the county employees are there recording the meetings supposedly, as far as I've been told. They've been broadcast. Of course, I'm not a Ukiah cable subscriber.
When I first found out about that, the county was now putting their meetings out on the internet, I was shocked and quite appalled, actually, because I've depended on TV for it for so long. Well, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll lose the argument if you have access to the meetings on the internet. I left the meeting to the library, downloaded it, got to the YouTube feed, and the audio was not working. And I thought it was me, but it was actually in the dialogue box that the audio was not working. Clearly, that's not access.
I think that people depend on Comcast and cable. I don't think that's going to change in 10 years, personally.
Jeff Smith, I'm the president of Willis Community Television. I'm not the public face of Willis Community Television. Apparently that's Andy.
No, that's Al.
We've seen a lot of changes. It's been suggested that some of those changes mean PEG access isn't as important as it used to be. I think that's, and most of you apparently agree with me, I think that's probably a short-sighted view of it. It's true, if you have a kitten that does backflips, Facebook and a cell phone, and you're in business. But that's never been a big part of our programming at Willis Community Television. We have the things that we can add to that, I guess, by coming in and seeing our staff and working with us, we can help them be more effective in communicating their ideas. People, there's training involved there. Video has a language all of its own, and for people to be able to use it effectively, they have to kind of learn something about that. And sometimes editing is a big part of it in order to end up with a program that says what you want. We have appropriate equipment sometimes. A very important part of a watchable video program is to be able to hear what the people are saying. And especially in a public meeting, you know, a cell phone camera on the 9th row doesn't really accomplish that. So we can show people how to have the right kind of audio equipment to go with the video that they're doing. I have to say, a lot of the stuff we've been getting credit for in this meeting has been done by volunteers. Willis Community Television doesn't really go out like a TV station and shoot these meetings and shoot these events and shoot the community chorale or shoot. It's volunteers that do that, but those volunteers are coordinated through coming into the facility and talking to Andy, who encourages them and puts people in touch with each other and puts organizations in touch with the volunteers. And Andy, as much as he would probably like to, doesn't do that out of the goodness of his heart solely. We pay him. If it wasn't for that money, all of the equipment that we have would just sit there collecting dust. If it wasn't for that operations funds, we have enormous assistance from the city in the sense of our building, our utilities, and some financial assistance as well. But the bulk of our funding right now for operations comes from the county as a kind of a share of their franchise revenues. It's essential that we maintain that operating funds in order to have a staff as minimal as it is. They're opening the doors and helping people coordinate and helping put together and learning how to do the kinds of things they want to do. Public meetings are important in transparency in government. We rebroadcast the Board of Supervisors meetings on cable, even though it's only provided on the internet right now. We have coordinating the volunteers, providing training and sometimes more suitable equipment, and even providing help for people if they want to put their things on social media. So we have a number of functions that are accomplished by having an access station with operating funds that wouldn't happen if we had diminished funding from the county. Some access facilities in more populated areas can charge subscribers. They can charge people for time to put their programs up. They can collect fees in various ways to kind of supplement that. The economic conditions in Willits are different, I think. Here we're encouraging local producers to volunteer their time, and we do that by making equipment available for free, by making the access to the facility and the channel available for free, by making the community bulletin board available to any organization with an activity or a service to promote for free. But I think that it makes it more effective in a community like Willits. If we charge for some of those things, we'd see less of it. That's sort of a basic economic principle. But we don't want to see less of it, we want to see more of it. A few years back, as has been pointed out, the county raised their level of support to roughly half of the franchise fee they get from Comcast. And that made all the difference to us. So at that point that we could actually have someone like Andy and Thea, our other staff person working for us, we went from a facility that showed a few programs whenever we got them to where we can have 3 channels 24 hours a day running for everybody in town with cable to look at. And most all of the locally produced videos where we have permission are also placed onto our website, referenced on our website with our YouTube and Vimeo channels. So internet's becoming an increasing part of it, but it doesn't take away the importance of having the staff to make that happen. The mission statement now is to improve our local community by helping individuals and organizations to have an effective voice for their ideas, knowledge, activities, and opinions through the use of electronic media. A big part of it is having that voice, that freedom of speech that we provide to anybody that walks in our door. And I hope the county can figure out how to keep providing that support at the level we've been getting, if not more, so we can keep doing that, as we've done since we were incorporated in 93, 94. We've operated continually since then, and we've operated through volunteers and some help from the city even before then.
You know, I think it's in good hands here in Willits. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, and the turnout here has been great, really, you know. So I think the challenge isn't going to be so much in figuring out how to keep it going in Willits, but is maybe more how to keep it going in Fort Bragg and getting it going again in Ukiah.
And the reason that we're here today is because the Board of Supervisors did not approve the recommendation to pull back all the funding.
And just recently, as the manager here at the Art Center, they have really enhanced our ability. Before you leave, there's a video downstairs of how the glasswork was developed that's in these front galleries. Al Rosen was willing to put a video together to show how to do that, and that's been playing in a loop in the downstairs classroom, and it's just enhanced.
It's wonderful.
Everyone that's come in and said, oh, you should have these, you know, artist studio videos at every show. So they really go above and beyond to make things happen. And
They do.
And Avenues to Wellness is here. I mean, we're really thriving, and it is because of our partnerships with the City of Willits and the public access television that we're able to do that.
The public access in this in this city allows a way, provides a way where people can talk to one another. They can show what's going on. They can share what's going on. People who are shut in or happen to miss an event can see it many times, and it's because of volunteers to a great degree. The station encourages people to come in and create programming. We encourage it with the schools. Right now we have a charter school we're working with an intern of the school, and we have reached out to the school many times to try to get young people to come in. It hasn't been as successful as we'd like, but we do provide that. We encourage people, particularly young people, as well as anybody, to come in and tell us your story. We're trying to get artists to come in. We're trying to get musicians to come in. We certainly air the public meetings. And volunteers go out and we listen to the choir, or we go to Emmendale Farm. We have the wellness series, which supports caregiving and general health. We have gardening shows. We have a whole variety of shows. And it's because volunteers go out, we're interested in the community, and we want to share all of this.
Adrienne Moore, I'm the city manager here in Willits, and I did submit a letter to Supervisors McCowan and Jurdy about City of Willits support for Willits Community Television. You know, it really is all about access, and we need it. It's a vital resource in this community and throughout the county. Last year there was an effort by AT&T to eliminate landlines in the county. That didn't happen because the communities throughout the county spoke up and said it can't happen here. As a rural community, we depend on some of the more traditional methods of communication, and our local access TV stations are very much a part of that. I think that if you end up looking at a model that would be a county-wide organization, I'd like to see them stay established as separate entities. But if there were a county-wide model, I would certainly want you and encourage you to look at Willits Community TV as a model of success. They've demonstrated that. They've been fiscally responsible and have been able to sustain for many, many years. We have a very engaged and involved and diverse community, especially here in Willits. I think many of us regularly experience when we're out in the community being approached by others in the community that have seen our meetings or other events on our local TV station, and that's their access to it. Mm-hmm. So we support, and I would not want to see 1 cent eliminated from Willits Community TV's funding. In fact, I'd like to see it increased.
So, and I